Brahman and Vaishnava. The conclusive comparison between Brahmins and Vaishnavas. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. Translated by Bhumipati Das. Continuation, Part 4. The Dharma Shastra compiler Vishnu 82, 3-29 also states, translation, one should reject the following Brahmins: those with missing limbs, those with extra limbs, those who behave unjustly, hypocrites, those who falsely accept the signs of some status, professional astrologers, professional priests, physicians, the sons of unmarried women, their sons, worshippers of many gods, priests of the village, priests of the Sudras, priests of the untouchables, those who have failed to take their second birth, their priests, performers of religious rites, betrayers, salaried teachers, the students who pay the salaries, those who are nourished by the food of Sudras, those who associate with fallen persons, those who are ignorant of the Vedas, those who fail to observe the Sandhya rites, chanting the Gayatri Mantra, government servants, those who do not wear clothes, those who quarrel with their fathers, and those who reject their father, mother, spiritual master, the sacred fire, or the study of the scriptures. Such persons are considered the worst kinds of Brahmins and are disgraces to their line. Learned persons should carefully reject these persons while performing the Shraddha ceremony for their fathers. End translation. Since Brahmins are also capable of committing any of the 9 types of sinful activities, Atipatika, Mahapatika, Anupatika, Upapatika, Jati Brahmsakara, Shankari Karana, killing animals, Patrikarana, Malavaha, and Prakarnika, it is difficult to know how far a Brahmin is qualified if he conceals these sins without undergoing atonement. It is true that a Brahmin can escape reproach from society if he successfully conceals those sinful activities by which he becomes fallen. But if he does so, his truthfulness is ruined, and as a result, he is degraded. The descendants of such a person will then surely and proudly accept that same sinful way of life. According to their occupations, there are many types of Brahmins. Atri 364-374 has stated, translation, there are 10 kinds of Brahmins mentioned in the scriptures: Devas, Munis, Dvijas, Rajas, Vaishyas, Sudras, Nishadas, Pashus, Malechas, and Chandalas. One who regularly bathes, chants japa, performs fire sacrifices, daily worships the demigods, observes the Sandhya rites, honors his guests, and worships the fire god, is a Deva Brahmin. One who always lives in the forest, eats only spinach, leaves, fruits, and roots, and regularly performs the Shraddha rites, is called a Muni Brahmin. One who gives up all association and spends all his time reading Vedanta and studying Sankhya Yoga is called a Dvija Vipra. One who publicly attacks opponents who confront him with weapons and defeats them with his own weapons is called a Chhatra Vipra. One who likes to cultivate the land, protect cows and other animals, or accept the profession of trade and commerce is called a Vaishya Vipra. One who sells varnish, salt, safflower oil, milk, honey, or meat is called a Sudra Vipra. One who is a thief or a rogue, who gives bad counsel, who is a betrayer, who bites with his harsh words, and is always greedy to eat fish and meat, is called a Nishada Brahman. One who proudly advertises himself as a sanctified Brahmin, but is ignorant of the absolute truth, is because of this sin called a Pashu Vipra. One who prevents others from using ponds, wells, lakes, or gardens is called Malecha Vipra. One who is devoid of pious activities, who is a fool, completely irreligious, and merciless to all living entities, is called a Chandala Brahman. Apart from these 10 kinds of Brahmins, Atri Mahashaya 376 through 379 also describes. There are 3 types of Brahmins: those who know astrology, those who know the Atharva Veda, and those who recite the Puranas like parrots. Goat traders, painters, physicians, and astrologers. These 4 kinds of Brahmins never become worshipful, even if they are as learned as Brihaspati. Magadhas, Mathuras, Kapatas, Kotas, and Kamalas, these 5 kinds of Brahmins never become worshipful, even if they are as learned as Brihaspati. Such Brahmins will spoil the results of one's activities, so they should be rejected. End translation. In addition to this, Atri 287 also says, translation, if one kills a deceitful Brahmin, he should perform the same atonement as prescribed for killing a Sudra. End translation. According to Atri, a compiler of the Dharma Shastras, besides these above-mentioned 23 types of Brahmins, there is one other kind. He says as follows. Atri 375. If a Brahmin is unable to extract any benefit from his hard studies of the Vedic literatures, he begins to study the Dharma Shastras. If he is unable to abstract any benefit from studying the Dharma Shastras, he becomes a reciter of the Puranas. If he fails to get any benefit from reciting the Puranas, he considers that it is better to earn his livelihood by farming. In other words, such people consider that studying the Vedic literatures, the Dharma Shastras, or the Puranas, is simply meant for earning one's livelihood. They see no other purpose in these activities. When such Brahmins are unsuited for all these engagements, they even take to farming. When they cannot be successful even reciting Puranas, they decide that farming is the best occupation for them. And, when due to incompetence and lack of skills, they fail to fill their bellies even by farming, they become spiritual masters of the Vaishnavas, accumulate wealth, and advertise themselves as great devotees, establishing this as their means of livelihood. In this way, including this pseudo-devotee Brahmin, there are 24 varieties of Brahmins, described by the Dharma Shastra compiler, Atri Mahashaya. Manu 2, 157 through 158, 168, 172, and 4, 245, 255, has stated. Translation. A Vipra who does not study the Vedas is similar to a wooden elephant or a deer made of skin, which are an elephant or deer only in name, but do not effectively function as such. As a eunuch is of no use to women, and a cow cannot be impregnated by another cow, giving charity to a foolish Brahmin who does not study the Vedas yields no result. One who in his lifetime does not endeavor to study the Vedas, but labors hard in other pursuits, quickly becomes a Sudra along with his family. One should know that until a Brahmin is qualified in the Vedas, he is on the same level as a Sudra. If a Brahmin dissociates himself from lower caste people and associates only with higher caste people, he attains greatness. If he does the opposite, becomes a Sudra. A person with a particular nature who claims to be different when coming before a sadhu is the topmost sinner, a cheater of himself, and a thief. End translation. In the Anusasana Parva, chapter 143 of the Mahabharata, it is stated, translation, one who has sex with the wife of his spiritual master, one who is envious of his spiritual master, one who habitually criticizes his spiritual master, such a Brahmin, even if he knows the absolute truth, falls from his position. The Shruti and Smriti scriptures are the two eyes of the Brahmins. Lacking one of them, a Brahmin is half blind. Deprived of both, he is considered completely blind. It is stated in the Karma Purana. Translation. End translation. O Brahmins, one who does not study the Vedas but carefully endeavors for other pursuits is certainly foolish and ostracized from Vedic life. Brahmins should not speak with such a person. A Brahmin should not be satisfied merely with studying the Vedas, for if he does not act accordingly, he will be as helpless as a cow that has fallen in the mud. One should know that a person who has studied the Vedas but does not properly consider their purport is like a blind person or a Sudra and will never attain the supreme goal of life. Those who describe the occupation of a servant to be like that of a dog are unable to give a proper comparison. How can a freely wandering dog be compared to a sold-out servant? If one eats food cooked by fallen, sinful Brahmins who have sold themselves to others, then one must atone by observing Chandrayana. A Brahmin should never eat food cooked by a Sudra. If other than in an emergency, one either willingly or mistakenly does eat food cooked by a Sudra, then as a result of eating such food, he is born as a Sudra. Those Brahmins who protect cows, engage in trade, become artists, take the occupation of servants, and loan money on interest are no better than Sudras. If a Brahmin does not accumulate grass, wood, fruits and flowers for religious purposes, he becomes eligible for falling down as a result of such actions. End translation. By seminal consideration, the descendants of a Brahmin are also Brahmins. This belief has been generally accepted for a long time. There is no shortage of evidence from the smrtis, Puranas, and histories in support of this belief. Yet, by the evidence that we have presented regarding the degradation of Brahmins, the disqualification of Brahmins who commit sinful activities, and the uncertainty of who is a real Brahmin, every listener will be able to understand how qualified the present-day descendants of Brahmins are.